Deb, do you want all the time or do you want me to just?
Well, time's 5:33 and I'll call the roll here.
Thank you.
Chair Stern,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fertig. Here. Harrison Grant Williams. Here. Richard Weiss. Here. And Jacqueline Scott is not here today.
We do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. She was singing the Stars from the Band.
Does anyone want to make a motion on the corrected November 2nd minutes and December 14th meeting? Anyone you did?
We just got the redraft of the November ones a few minutes ago. It seemed fine to me. I'm happy to make the motion to accept the revised meeting minutes from November as well as the December minutes.
With a comment that I think these minutes are much easier to get through and shorter. There's no editorial, there's no
Right.
select, nobody has to decide what was said and what's not said. It's just, I think it'll get us through the emotions of what are important.
So that,
Call the question.
were you, so you second? Richard?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passed.
Under the old business section here, we have 2 items on the agenda. However, there were actually multiple items. So you want to make a motion to amend the agenda to include, if we can get through to it, we will. If not, then it'll get rolled over, but I
Well,
think
what are the items that we need to have? Somehow in translation of items.
Right, what I intended was. The
four
additional,
of the topics.
the additional items that were on the last months. So we have 315, 303. We also have 3.13, 309, 310, and 405. I don't know if we'll get to them even today. But since they were on the previous meeting agenda, I was thinking that we might get to them.
Yeah, I just was wondering, who's this? I thought there was, who's the staff person? Are you the staff person taking over Virginia?
Yes, I'm Janea for the evening.
You
Okay.
do, David.
Oh, we might.
David Solomon.
Okay.
Twice.
Okay, so you're gonna make notes about what we have to do for next time.
Of course,
Okay,
yep.
great. Thank you.
Paul, did you say 405?
405 was one, it's not one that you
We did not
actually
get to it.
discussed, right,
Yes,
but you had not really discussed it. I put it on there myself because you had discussed city manager requirements, so I took the liberty of putting it on.
no, I just want to make sure that was on. I was thinking of things.
Is there a motion? Yeah.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second. 0 second. Yes, sir.
Oh, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
All right, so why don't we start with section 3.15, it was the first on both of them. And that goes back to where we left off on the petition for the ordinance. We were talking about, Dean was under the misconception that it was about recall. It has nothing to do with recall. It has to solely do with petitions. We came up with some theories on it about making sure that legal reviews the petitions prior to people even circulating it. There's a lot of things in the state law that also we need to make sure is incorporated in anything that we do. I don't know, with the paid collectors and things like that, people have recently been arrested for actions over the last year or not being properly valid falsifying. So we kind of discussed that in the past. And I really think where we were up to at this point from all the other discussion is the percentage. 1% is what the state told us when we called up there, but that ends up being for the candidate ballot, not the initiative. The county is at 7%, the state is at 8%. And again, we make recommendations to the commission. We are not the final decision makers on anything. We just use this group to be the people that make the recommendations, and then the commission can select and accept or, reject or modify. And then the voters get to vote on the final outcome. So was there much more that we really needed to discuss in that particular section? Okay. Now I'll turn it over to you, Paul. Yeah, turn it.
So what I did was, and I jump around a little bit, what I did was I took my notes and I went in order of your discussion at the last meeting.
Okay.
So I thought that kind of made sense. I went through my notes, I kind of assimilated what you said you wanted. There were some motions, there was some consensus, and I took all that and I put it together in the latest version of 3.15. So,
Would you go through?
Shall I begin?
The changes.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. And, but as I say, I preface it by saying, I went in the order of your discussion last time. Okay, so the first one I have is in 3.15 G2. And what I did there was, now, if you have last meeting's agenda, actually, I brought 5 of them. I made a few comments just in case. So if you want to compare, you'll see what I'm talking about. Just have to find it.
Good, that's
Okay.
that's over there.
So I made 5 copies. I don't know who doesn't have it and wants it.
I have to.
So, yeah, if you want to compare what I, last month's version. So in G2, I eliminated the not less than 45 nor more than 60 days. I made it, and we're talking about G2 submission to the electors.
Right, this is where we talked about what election.
Right.
Would be on it.
Right. So if you look at the current version that's underlined, I made it in conjunction with the city's next regular municipal election. And then there's further discussion on this point. Unless the city commission at the committee's request elects an earlier vote of the electorate, which, as we discussed, would cost money, provided that in such event, the election shall be by mail ballot election, and the committee shall prepay the cost of the mail ballot election. So that sounded to me what you wanted.
The question I had about this was, if it's being paid for by the committee, should not the committee have the ability to say, we've raised $1 million, I want a regular election, I want a special election, and I'll pay for it. Why would we not give the committee that option?
That was your conclusion last time, and I believe there was a
I'm
motion,
raising
so
it.
that's a good question.
That's it.
If I understood what Nathaniel said at our last meeting, the supervisor of elections office, under the policy of the supervisor, is not entertaining any full in-person elections other than the mail only type.
So then I would put a clause in here saying that if it's available, if it's available. Because the next supervisor of elections it's not unusual for municipalities to have special elections. It's expensive, but it's not unusual. They want to get something done. So I'd actually make a motion that this be amended, provide for a regular election, whatever the terminology would be called. Provided that, provided it's, I don't like the word available, you'll have to figure out what to say, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Provided that it's approved by the supervisor of election or something like that, provided it's available, something like that.
you know, or in compliance
That's
with,
my motion.
I
compliance
second,
with their rules and regulations.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Otherwise, I'm fine with this section. I think we did a good job on it.
Agreed.
I can add that.
What's the next one?
Next is, if you don't mind jumping, if you don't mind the way I'm doing this, jumping to 3.03.
Oh, we're through 3.15.
For now,
Oh, I do have a question on that.
but I'm gonna come back.
Okay, better come back to.
Come back to
No.
4.5.
Well, then let's finish up
Yeah.
3.15 and
Then let's just remember that I have to come back to 3.03 again.
Sure.
Okay, so the next one, 3.15 is C. Return to C. The city attorney tells the committee what, if anything, is wrong. Because before it just said that the city attorney finds it legally sufficient or not. But you wanted it, you wanted city attorney to indicate what's wrong with it. So, see how I'm not exactly reading it here. The city attorney tells the committee what, if anything, is wrong with the proposed ordinance or proposed petition form.
I mean, you did a good job on this part. I think it says what it's supposed to say.
I agree.
Yep, yep, great, thank you. Okay, also in C,
We do leave it open here as to if they come back again and city attorney finds it legally insufficient again. But the thing is also, it is a burden on the city attorney's office, you know, to review over and over. And if people get sort of two shots at the apple, two shots at the apple, then that's maybe enough. But we do leave it open, which is what if they want to submit it again?
and as a practical matter, you know, informally, there may be some communication, if it's something small that. I mean, I don't.
I could start the process all over again with.
Yeah, I guess they would start it again. Okay, all right. So I think you did a good job. I think it says what we're supposed to say.
Thank you, we're still in C.
Anyway, I'd make a motion to accept this section.
the whole section of C.
No, the C,
I have more in C.
3.15.
I have more in C.
Yeah, because he
Okay,
has
we're
to
in
tell you.
More to tell you about C.
All right, right.
The city attorney reviews not only the proposed ordinance, but also the proposed petition.
That's right.
That you have me add. Should I go on or do you want to make interim motion?
I have just one point that I'd like to raise, and I don't think that this necessarily has to be language in the charter, but should we contemplate whether or not a committee that is presenting work to the city attorney's office for review might be liable to pay whatever fees sound necessary or appropriate for staff time, other things like that? I know, say for instance, with public records requests, sometimes it's just the charge of the paper being printed. Sometimes it's if you're asking for something that requires research and considerable staff time, there could be a fee schedule imposed.
Yeah,
And I
we
don't know
think,
if we have to.
yeah, we think like professionals that think we're going in well organized, but some guy off the street who sees this and thinks, and then it does become the burden on the city attorney's office. That's unfair. So how do you address that?
Well,
Chris?
I have a concern with charging the public to have a city attorney who really is a city employee who's trying to get the petition wording legally sufficient to charge people, one, because it's a barrier, but two, who's to say, you know, how much he's going to charge? Because you mentioned public records requests. I mean, the school board, for example, not the city, is famous for saying, okay, that'll be $3,500. We go, what? Research time. And, you know, they just pull these figures out of the air. And,
The
you know,
city does that too.
yeah, and, you know, unless we're gonna go down the rabbit hole of establishing what rates are and how it's gonna be calculated, you know, I think it could be a barrier. It's a very unpopular issue, you know, to the city attorney just puts this big barrier.
I think you both make good points. Another thing we could do is we could say if they're submitting it for the second time, then they pay, but then they pay it for the city attorney's time, because that becomes burdensome.
The second time or the third time?
Second, I don't know, when it's one other time, but on the issue of the fees, I mean, we do this all the time. And I'm sure that there's abuses of it, but we're very careful, somebody submits a large public records request. We keep very good track of our time and we give them an estimate up front. We say this is what it's gonna cost, we ask them for a check. And then, but, I mean, I'm sure there are abuses of it, and I'm sure people use it as an excuse sometimes not to produce the records that they're supposed to do. But it's a whole statutory scheme that's there in the statutes to do this. So I don't really feel strongly about it either way. If somebody does, I don't.
Are we in agreement that the absence of language in the charter with respect to that question leaves it open to the interpretation of the city?
No, it means that they're not charging.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think unless there's a charge, but city can't charge for things unless there's authority to do it. And so it's not here.
Richard, could they then create a policy by the commission as they see an overall abuse?
Yes, but you could also argue that's sort of impinging on, it would be a city attorney. So you could argue that that's impinging on the power of the citizens to get their petition reviewed. They could say, okay, well, it's gonna be $10,000 to do this or something. Yes, they could.
And I don't say we're even right now where this is a really big issue. I think we're trying to forestall an issue that isn't really there.
I mean, I don't, there's not lots and lots of petitions. I mean, you would know, there've been a lot of petitions. How many last 10 years? Two.
Yeah.
Two.
That's about it.
So it's not a big issue. It's not a.
Yes,
I guess in theory, if a committee came along with a rewrite of the entire code of ordinances, then you have some time.
But
To put it in.
I mean, I think
But
it's
what are the chances?
what are the chances? I think it's mostly a pinpoint. They're upset about what's happening in this particular thing, and so I'm okay with the way it is. But Harrison, you make a good point. We could charge, but I don't. Not my issue.
no, I'm not regard charging. I just do also understand abuse. Not that we've had to deal with them with petition. And I see no reason why anyone should be charged for even coming back a second time. This is a rewrite based on the advice of the council. Why would you want to consider charged?
Okay, so let's leave it, unless if somebody feels strong, let's just leave it the way it is and what's next fall. So we're not going to change that section and add anything about costs.
Next is D. You wanted me to put in there that the city will develop the petition. Just kind of.
If they have to,
City.
except that the C says they're going to submit the form and the petition.
But yeah, one of the things you asked though is that the city will create the petition form.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
form.
Just a form.
Mhm.
Yeah, all right, the city will develop it.
This is a very good thought, but it doesn't really mesh well with C. The concept of C is that the committee is going to submit the proposed ordinance and petition form. The concept of D was that in the abstract, in the just in case world, the city would have a petition form. And it doesn't really relate to any particular petition, so it would be just a form.
Yeah, just a template.
It would be just a template.
Okay.
And so this is a little bit, it doesn't quite mesh with what we did on C. So, maybe further up or something like that, the city clerk shall develop a standardized petition template to be used by all petitions, something like that. But even with that, there's review to be done because things need to be filled in,
Correct.
the ballot question needs to be put in, so there's still work for the city attorney to do on the petition.
Oh, yeah.
So.
So maybe that should be combined with C. Well.
Well, it's basically
Well,
just
you
in
could
the
say,
alternative, right?
so submit a proposed ordinance together with proposed petition form. See, there's a petition form filled out, and then there's a blank petition. I think you should have a little sentence someplace that says the city clerk shall develop a template form of this. It starts to get too complicated, because one's the form, and one's the filled out.
The actual filled out.
Yeah, so this, you had the right idea, but it just didn't mesh up with what we just.
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, and I think, and you also wanted the city clerk issuing the petition blank.
Well, the question is this an option or is this a requirement? To issue the appropriate petition blank?
I would imagine that it would be no different than when you get your forms to file to run for office and you go to the city clerk's office and you pick up.
No, but this is once the petition form is filled out,
Oh, then
who
it
actually
comes back.
issues the forms? Is the clerk then taking what's been approved by the city attorney and running off lots of copies and giving it back to the petitioners to say, okay, this has been approved by the city attorney. Let's go to FedEx and Xerox off a bunch of.
The way I read it was if the committee requests the clerk to run them off, then it would be at the committee's expense.
Okay, so that implies that they could do
They
it
do it themselves.
themselves. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, that's the way it should be.
Okay, so somebody wants to change that?
Because it says that the committee's request and expense,
Oh,
they will issue.
okay. So then I'm leaving,
You do.
Z.
You bet.
So we're not going with the template form to be,
We are,
We-
but that
we're doing that
doesn't,
part.
that's a separate
okay.
piece. This is another piece.
Next is E1.
This is the percentage.
The percentage. So the signatures of at least 1% of the total number of electors registered to vote at the last regular city election. This is modeled after section 99.095, which is the petition process in lieu of qualifying fee and party assessment. So it's really, it could be at whatever you recommend. As Chair said, the counties are 7, for state constitutional amendments, it's 8.
Right now, we're only at we're at 1,000 since 1983 or something like that.
Well, we're at 1,000 initially, but then it goes to a percentage of something like. Look, but isn't it like
Not
more like
current.
15? Yeah, the 1,000 electors is to get it started, I believe.
No, there's no.
Or if it's
to get
rejected,
started.
if it's rejected by the city commission,
How
then
many,
there's a
what's the
percentage.
population for
It's
what?
high.
About
180,000, give or take, it's about 90,000 voters.
90,000 voters. So 1%
Is 900.
is
The
9.
numbers that we had from the state for Fort Lauderdale was what, 1360, something around 1360, 1380.
So 1%.
That was the 1%.
The number of electors registered to vote.
Right, because it's not population of the city, it's
It's 90,000.
So
the
currently,
percentage of the registered voters at the last general election.
But 1% would be 9. Does that sound like a lot or?
I went and looked at it and we had 132,766 according to the.
Whoever the one, I know
The
was
supervisors
1,300
of
and change.
elections,
132,000 voters.
Registered voters, 132,766. That's what I got off the supervisor's website.
Yeah, I had from the state, so it was thereabouts. I remember it was 1,300, just.
Yeah, so about 1,300.
90,000.
Yeah,
For the purpose of the discussion, the question, I mean, the difference between 930 and 900 and
1,300.
and 1,300 is not, so.
It's significant if
It
you're
is.
out there trying to get people to sign petitions, yeah. And I think
okay,
Well, yeah.
1,300 is the,
It is a lot.
yeah, it's From past experience, yes, it's very hard to do that. Because you have to get quite a few more because of all of the invalid signatures.
So just real quick from the cost estimate we got for November 2024, it says total for our is 131,911.
That's close to what I read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So currently, it's a two-step process because there's an initial committee of 1,000, but then if the proposal is rejected, then, and this goes in, this is actually a separate section, Charter 3.16. I've combined them all to 3.15, the way we've done it based on Homestead. But there's a separate section now, currently 3.16. After the ban for election has been refused, then the committee has a right to circulate petitions and to obtain the signatures of registered electors equal in number to 15% of qualified electors in order to compel the enactment of such ordinance.
Well, I mean, the process is petitioners go to the city commission. And they say, we want you to pass this ordinance. And then the city commission accepts it, that's fine. And if not, then you go through this whole process.
I saw it the other way, so that you'd have to get the votes on the petitions to submit it to the city. And then if the city doesn't vote for it, then it goes to the electors.
Right, and if I'm hearing Paul correctly, there is that separate mechanism that if somehow that same committee got a petition signed by 15% of the city had to adopt the ordinance.
I don't think that, no, I think that's to the minimum election. We really don't. That's. Election.
Oh, are we saying that if 1,300 signatures or 900 signatures come to the city commission decides to approve the idea of what kicks it over to the
How it's written now, is it the appropriate number of signatures, whatever that is approved by the supervisor of elections, then it's brought before the city commission. The city commission, not votes it down.
But you're saying 1,300 signatures are to a vote.
Yes.
Is that a threshold?
I understand your reticence, but if you look at history, you know, it's not an equal threshold.
So why would we just take the commissioners? Want to come in, but why would they take it to the commission?
Put everyone through an election, if the commission feels that's a great idea, then either accept it or talk to That's what it says. That's the.
That's what it, that would suggest that the commission has people or the petition to apply for the issue. It's usually a commission that will vote something. It's commission has an appetite for passing it, to do it on its own.
That's one scenario, that's not the only scenario.
I know, but I've been on this commission for a while, and I've seen them, and I welcome petition rights. People want to have heard, that's often how the commission may want that petition.
the biggest problem that we mentioned through this last time was the point of the attorney's office on what's a regular meeting, so it can be considered by you or a vote and by being on the afternoon agenda. It wasn't taken up of the vote, but the argument was that we would try to clean that section up and then what the next process would be. And the discussion has been about the balancing as it's been standing or increasing. Homestead is 25%, which most of us from our size, yeah, it's a small city.
Still,
So that's where we start talking percentages.
I'm saying five, one is 15 and one is 25. The decision for new ordinance that we to put on or vice versa.
So we would taking it out from that process and not compare, we were rejecting basically the homestead process and creating our own process here that we felt would be fair and balanced for the residents here. So I think we're open. We're just.
that's a problem. Making people pay for an election.
No, the way we have it set up is if they want to hold it as a special election, they have to pay for it, they have to pay for it.
Otherwise, it just goes on the
Otherwise,
next
it goes on
ballot.
the Next.
Next ballot.
ballot,
That doesn't cost the city anything.
you know,
Right.
and it doesn't cost the petitioners anything.
It doesn't cost petitions.
So the question really is whether 1,300 people, well, whatever the number is, should be able to put something on the ballot. That's the bottom.
That's really it.
What's the
I mean, really,
appropriate
that's the whole
amount of
discussion.
people that should be able to create a whole issue in the city?
The county, Harrison, is what, 7%?
7.
7%?
Mhm.
7%.
That's the charter amendments. I'm not sure about ordinance, or maybe the same, but.
Yeah, it was the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, I checked with Nate.
That's what happened.
I gotta tell you. 1,300 people put something in the ballot, someone's like office. I mean, it's just a big, whole citywide election because 1,300 people in one small neighborhood. Want to put something about just sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You've got 1%, you've got 7%, you got 8%.
1,300, just 10%.
No,
1%.
1%.
Excuse me,
This is
1%.
130.
10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. We're
10%
discussing.
Seems like a really big bar. I mean, that essentially would preclude any citizen initiative. 180 days to get,
So maybe there's something, 1,300 sounds like very small, not 1% sounds like very small to me. I understand what you're saying about 10%.
Well, that's
Maybe there's something.
And, you know, like I said, 1983 was 1,000, and here we are 40 years later. So to increase is not unreasonable.
So,
Yeah.
because I'm bad at math, let's say it was 100,000, because it said there's 100,000 people in Fort Little, 10% would be
10,000.
10,000.
10,000. 5% would be 5,000 people. 7% would be,
Yeah, even that, if you consider how many people actually vote in that election.
well, that's all this counts here, is who voted in the last election.
No.
That's all.
No, not
Right.
voted,
No.
Registered.
Just registered.
You say that, and that's your
Not-
problem. 10% of the people vote in a city
Yeah.
election, which on an off election, that was our example.
Yeah,
Then you're gonna have to find everyone that voted in the election just to get a citizens initiative, and that,
David, could you just check what were the numbers the last time in the city elections? Was it 27% or?
Yeah, I can pull that up.
Judy, what's your thought? What do you?
To me, it's, I know how difficult it is to get petition drive done, even from the corporate side of the world, even, when we did initiatives, statewide initiatives. And it's very difficult, and just the kidney transplant license plate, what we went through and how long it took us to get that done. And it costs to have to hire professional people to actually do the petition. drive.
10,000 sounds like too, 13,000 sounds like too much. for you.
Too much.
How about half?
That's why I want to see how many actually voted in the city election in November.
Just give me 1 second.
By the
And
way,
I'll tell you my theory as to why I'm asking that question, and David comes up with that. Knowing what the expenses spent in that type of election is what I'm saying. So if you want to be fair and reasonable to just the average person versus a corporate entity for a corporate purpose, it's two different scenarios. Therefore, I can go with the lower percentage for something that's reasonable.
I think that the 1,300 number, while it does seem low, thinking through the logistics of how many doors need to be knocked, how many phone calls need to be made, the organizing and logistics behind that is just as high a barrier as it would if it was 2% of the electorate. And again, I only say that because I think that when you are asking somebody first, are you registered to vote in the city of Fort Lauderdale? Come back. The people that have been doing petition drives for things that are statewide, they don't have to narrow cast nearly as much. And it is still a very expensive, very sophisticated operation that anything that has actually gotten to the constitutional amendments. If you have that kind of organizing power, chances are you wouldn't need to go through the petition mechanism. I think this really should be a small d democratic, open way of
David, what
petitioning.
was the,
So what I did is I pulled up the mayor of Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
since that went citywide in 2020. And it's 1,792 people voted for the mayoral race.
You gotta.
1,792. Yeah.
that's a major
Yeah.
election.
That's citywide.
Oh, yes, that's-
Just kidding.
I got about 50,000 votes.
It unfortunately doesn't give a breakdown. I have like,
50,000 votes in 2020.
Thousand people,
I was just saying if the mayor was paying attention. It'll take me a minute. I have to count them by precinct.
Okay, so,
You have to count, but do you have a hand count?
Yeah.
okay, so if you go back, just take a look at the districts. Just what percentage voted in 2022 in the district races?
Okay.
And we'll just take go with the percentage versus the number.
All this pressure.
I do like the idea of something because that's the city grows over.
Within the growth.
Not stuck
Like
with-
2020. Yeah. That's a presidential election, more people would vote. Twenty twenty? You go get 2%.
Only showing two of the districts, when we had 3 districts, so. This isn't the best, I don't have the best. Just give it, just give it a minute,
Well, we could just lose percentage of what commission.
I think that's our job.
That's what I'm saying, people need to help. and-
No, I don't think that's our job. I think we're here to make a recommendation. Like, for me, I like to make a recommendation. I don't like it, so.
All right.
85,956 people voted in the mayoral race in 2020.
How many?
Sorry, I do this for
How many people?
Good,
were-
thank you.
What did they do?
So it is just under 90,000 for rounding, but.
Voted in the election?
But if we were being very specific, 85,956. That was in 2020 citywide.
And what was the percentage, they say?
Let me know that, because it should be.
It's 130-something-thousand registered voters,
Right.
90,000 voted due to that, so 70%.
I know where to find this, but this is not
Because
cooperative.
if you're saying 90,000, it's 137,000, that's more than 50%.
Yeah, it's about 70.
So the November presidential general.
69%.
How many? Okay. Let's make a decision. What do you guys want? Somebody make a motion.
Well, for discussion, I'd like to keep it at 1% because I think a citizen initiative is just that. Let the citizens, get out and have a threshold that they think they can accomplish and, Because I don't think, given our past experience with just 1,000 vote threshold, we can read.
So you're second.
Oh, was that as?
Yeah.
That's his motion.
In which case I'll second that.
Right, call the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Really. It's small file.
You are on the prevailing side if you want us to.
I know, I'll bring it up next meeting.
Yeah.
Again and again, like the minutes.
But think about it like this, Richard. We're thinking more in terms of the grassroots individuals versus a corporate entity.
I understand.
So we're trying to make the life here more
But
compassionate for the average.
kinder, gentler, somebody said.
Collaborative.
All right, let's move on.
Ready? E3. You asked me to have the filing of petitions with the city clerk or the city clerk's designee. That's what changed from last time.
Right.
And also, actually, in the last version, E3 was the affidavit of circulator, which you asked me to eliminate.
Right, you guys do.
So this filing deadline.
If we're talking about filing deadline, I'd like everyone to consider, right now, it says 180 days from the filing of the affidavit, which would be the initiation of the process. Then you have 30 days for the city attorney to look at it, 30 days if he rejects it to resubmit, and another 30 days for the city attorney. If we're starting the clock with the initial affidavit, theoretically, you could have half your time ground up. but
Where is
180 days-
the term affidavit defined? You have it capitalized?
Oh, I think it, yeah. I think
Oh, here it is. Tentative, so the affidavit, I think the time should start from the time the city attorney approved.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was gonna.
I think that's right.
I would also like to just point out that technically what Romanet 3 describes is not the filing deadline, it's the qualifying deadline.
Qualifying for what?
Qualifying that the petitions are certified.
You
Yeah,
have the,
I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. I think you've
but
got
you
a
have
point
the
there.
two-step process between the clerk's office and the supervisor's office.
City clerk, the petitions will be filed with the city clerk within 180 days. We're gonna change it. Okay, so you want to change the title of it?
Yeah, I just think that it's more accurate to refer to this as a qualifying deadline. Filing, as,
Yeah.
as I understood it, would be the initial committee
Okay,
stating that they
so
want
let's
to
change it. Violate qualifying deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there another word? Because qualifying, so it sounds like a.
But that's what we do when we file anything with the supervisor of elections or the state
I'll make a
secretary of state.
motion to change the title.
Seconded.
And that was E3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I got so too excited. Okay, let's.
I could then I would make a motion that we start the 180-day deadline from the date of approval by the city attorney.
Yes.
I agree. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Making some progress.
Maybe we'll finish this tonight.
Well,
Well, it's an important section.
It is.
When it's not common, not used a lot, but when it's used, we hopefully eliminate any of it. So. Next one. By the way, Paul's taking me a second. I don't know when that meeting with the city commission is going to be held. But I was wondering whether we should have Paul, because he has lots of time, compile some sort of interim report
Well, it's interesting that you said this. That's why I was going to recommend that at the end. And we've always said that we would be ready March and April, so we could be timely for them to have the review before we have to go to the elections office. And we've been saying that every
But I
year.
don't think it's right, you discussed eliminating the office of the mayor.
They walk in at the wrong time.
But what we were talking about is that once we get this done, I think we need one document to come back to us to workshop through
I
before
was
anything goes
thinking
to
it to
the.
be, I'm not sure what this joint meeting's about, but I was thinking as an interim that that maybe the city commission will be interested in what we agreed to, what we've accomplished, where we are.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do. There's no reason to meet prior to us having that.
I don't have an opinion about whether we should meet with them or not. I was just suggesting that there's some sort of a document saying, okay, this is where
Right.
we've met before.
Actually, I was going to ask you to work with the attorney's office to compile the final.
Well, I can do that.
Rejected.
I'm happy to work on the phone, but I'm suggesting that there's apparently some interest in the city commission.
No, there's one
In
interest
talk-
in the commission,
What?
just one interest in the commission.
Oh, well. I don't pay that.
Yeah, so, and we've always said since the beginning of time to this committee that we would have everything done by March or April, so we could be in compliance.
So. I'm
And this
just-
way, we need to
if
take that
there's a joint
document
meeting,
to them.
if there's a joint meeting.
No, but I agree, when we have the meeting with them, we need to have the final report. Everything that
So
we've
you're
done.
saying there's not going to be an interim, meeting, is that what you're saying?
Well, usually what we've done in the past, we get our work completed, and then we
I
have the
know, but I'm
meeting
just trying
with
to
them.
deal with reality. Somebody called me up and said, there's a joint meeting with the city commission on this date. I say, okay, do you think that there's going to be an interim meeting or not?
I don't see why we need to, because why should we be changing the process?
I agree with you, but I thought that it came from Junia and she said that January 9th,
But yeah.
there was
I think
this
that-
meeting
I
that
was
was
under,
scheduled.
I was under the impression that the commission requested it, not June.
No. A commission request.
It was discussed at a commission meeting and they set the schedule for January 9th.
Did they vote to do it?
No,
It was just a discussion on putting together a joint
And what we
workshop.
said, the majority of the commission want to have a meeting with us prior to the time we're done.
I would have to listen back to exactly who said what, but I know,
And then wasn't there a conflict?
On my paper.
I'm sorry?
There was a conflict, but
yes, Janina
Schedule.
reached out to the board and 3 were unavailable and
no, for the commission, wasn't something else happening?
All right, I thought this-
No, not on
but
the
this-
board.
I did not realize that I was stepping into it here, so.
No, I don't know why
Let's
we-
move on.
yeah, let's,
I thought we were gonna have some sort of meeting, but
Well,
if we're
we're-
not, then we don't.
yeah, I mean, what we've always done is we've completed our work and then we take the work and have
Okay.
a final workshop and we hammer it out.
I'm glad we clarified it because it still was on February 9th, and then we were told, well, we're gonna move it to some other date.
February 9th? Oh, I thought
No,
it
no,
was
no,
January.
January 9th that it was scheduled for,
Yeah.
that we received from Julia.
Right.
Then she came back and said,
There was
no,
conflict,
there's conflict,
right,
and it'd be rescheduled, so.
right.
I'm glad we discussed it because apparently it's not gonna be rescheduled. As I understand it, there's no,
I think,
Another date has not been proposed.
I think the issue of whether it's under schedule or not is way above our pay grade.
exactly.
And I should not have asked the question. I think we should just go back to work.
Okay, okay.
Let's just get the work done.
What's next one?
F1.
Okay.
F1, what I did there is, I made it the cost of signature verification established by the Broward County Supervisor of Elections rather than citing the statute. Also in F1,
Hold on one second.
previous version, I mentioned the statute.
So Paul, is there a way here to define supervisor, using the Broward County Supervisor elections like twice in this one sentence?
I thought about that.
Why don't you just call the supervisor, define it or something, so you don't have to keep saying it over and over again? Because you say it in other sections here.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, it's just
thought about that. I'll have to calculate it. Yes.
the Broward County Supervisor, like parentheses, the supervisor of elections. Established by the supervisor of elections in Broward. Again, the supervisor of elections, it seems like this could be cleaned up. A little bit. 5 words. Any changes in number of Romanet money?
There's something else. Something else, yes. Okay, so the cost established rather than cited. So the second thing is a copy of the certificate is sent to the committee and city clerk by electronic means with electronic verification of receipt. I don't think you voted on that, but that sounded like a consensus.
Sounds like a good thought.
Now, whether that's clear enough, I'm not sure, but that's the,
I think it's fine. Just redraft the section so it's just not so many supervisors away.
Also as a Scrivener's note, electronic means versus electronically.
You're young, so you know the right terminology.
I love Scrivener's errors. We get very far around to issues that are just typos.
was that an error or is that just a different way to say it?
That is a distinction without a difference.
Okay, questions were viewed as electronic means or electronically.
I
I
like
think
the
it
way
means,
it's worded.
if everyone's fine with it, I'm fine.
Let's move on. Anything in number 2, Paul?
Yes. Same as above for the supplementary petition, so it's at the end.
Got it.
Copy of certificate of the committee and the city clerk by electronic
And you're
means.
gonna clean up the supervisor election.
Oh, actually, yeah. We'll do that for the whole, I can do it the first time in the ordinance. G1. Deleted the time.
Mayor, this is the section you were talking about. This is the Section,
Yeah.
that talks about what happened when it's presented.
So what I did here is I deleted the time of the evening of the I call it the so-called regular meeting, it's where they all want to do the full commission. We got rid of the 6 o'clock PM from the previous.
Right. So eliminates any going around the day, just as if you could do it in 45 or 30 days, you're done. You know.
Exactly. If they decide not to vote on it, just put it in
Right.
discussion.
Yes.
Let's go back to, back to everyone. Then I said, put this in order, this is the discussion. So A1. The exceptions, things that cannot be, initiated by petition. So I added recall of elected officials or reversal of business decisions, and tried to define what business decision was, including but not limited to contractual obligations or the issuance of debt.
Business decisions is gonna just need to, it's a loophole that everybody in the world would jump through. No way.
So-
It's wrong.
It can't be that.
What's wrong? No, that's an exception.
Business decisions,
Yeah,
The
that's what
definition
I'm
is
saying.
so broad. it's
so
just
broad.
what it
Yeah, I was
is.
gonna say, that's a.
Well, the problem I was thinking about is, conceivably or theoretically, someone can come up with an ordinance that reverses business decisions. You don't want that.
We've
I-
had this discussion
I,
before.
Or just not address it.
I think you have your exclusions, the ones that are very clear, and the other ones are, let them deal with it. The business decisions will be used by by anybody who doesn't want to hear the petition, say, oh, this is a business decision, you can't have a petition about this. Who's to say what's a business decision?
And you can say everything before the commission. is
Exactly.
a Business decision.
Yes.
And people are confused as far as what is policy decisions versus
Yeah.
business decisions, and you don't want to.
Yeah, well, what were you
Give
trying
them
to
the
accomplish
opportunity.
here?
I was trying to prevent a petition initiative
Undo it by
So I'm-
decision.
No, to undo a contract for new computers, or to undo a contract for fire engines, or fleet, to undo a contract for, with a bank for the issuance of debt.
Okay,
Or
so let's go
a
through
loan,
that.
that
The
kind of
cities,
thing.
for the city, well, you have, no, there's specific things about the budget, right?
That's in there.
So let's assume that the city decides to buy bright blue fire engines. Sign a contract with whatever the company is that makes bright blue fire engines. And citizens are not happy with it. So they do a petition drive to pass an ordinance in the city that says all city fire trucks shall be red.
Not necessarily. What I was thinking is,
So let me do my example, because this is very similar to me, and it'll let us have this. All the city, every fire truck in the city, any new fire truck must be red. So that passes. But there's already been a contract that entered into between something with Francis and whatever the fire truck company is. I mean, I don't think that the city can get out of a contract by some ordinance. I think the contract's the contract, it's like an impairment of contract. The later ordinance or something that the city commission did. I mean, you could research it, but I don't think that the city can get out of any bad deal it makes by just passing an ordinance saying it's illegal.
well, I guess what I was trying to do is preclude a petition attempt to undo that contract.
I know that, but
But isn't the word contractual obligations that he has following business decisions the limitation that we're looking at?
you know, but the question is whether I'd like to see some research as to whether.
But that was based on, actually, that was based on something the mayor said. I believe.
Yes, it's included, but it's included in the minutes.
Right, but I'm just saying contractual obligations as, given your example,
Yeah.
that would be excluded.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
the example was, the mayor was concerned concerned about reversing a decision like pickleball at Snyder Park by ordinance. And then I may have taken that one step further and that's his business decision. So I took that one step further and that's why I wrote that in there.
You could petition for the pickleball. Unlike a vendor contract providing professional services or subject matter.
Pickleball was a comprehensive agreement pursuant to an associate proposal, as I recall. So I think that was the concern,
I think this.
whether by petition.
It's usually land use and
I think this is a law school question. We need to find out whether the city enters into a contract which is substantively deemed to be illegal by ordinance, where the city can get out of the contract. I don't think you can.
I would suspect.
I don't think you can either, and then, so, but I would like to know the answer to that. And then, you know,
I don't see a petition drive to,
It's mine, sorry.
yeah, to have the city cancel a existing contract. It
Yeah,
would be more perspective in the future.
well, I think that is appropriate. The question is, in my fire truck example,
Mhm.
people, you know, listen, it takes another, let's say 1,300 people say, I don't like blue fire trucks.
That'd be
competitive bidding
prospective
and
then in the future,
But
but I don't see how they could
I
tell the city.
think that that's appropriate,
Mhm.
but I just want to make sure that they can't, you know, that those ordinances are not read retroactive.
Let me try to be more specific, or should I get rid of it? Do you think?
Well, I think we should, honestly, I think respectfully, I think we need to do the research and find out whether it's really a problem. If it's not a problem, then let's not worry about it. If it does, then, you know, but it's a serious, you know, the city should be able to enter into contracts, you know, without a 180-day waiting period for people to get out of it. That's not good way to do business. Okay, so just put this for a follow-up, please.
And some of that, wouldn't that fall under anyhow, some of the procurement laws that govern?
I suspect we're gonna
Contract laws.
find that you can't get the city out of a contract.
You can't impair a contract,
Yeah.
right? You
Right.
Government can't impair, and that's what I.
Yeah. And I think once we can eliminate that, then we don't have to worry about it because
Right.
you can't do it. legally.
And we don't have to worry about it, business decisions,
Right.
because you can't do it. Let's move on.
Right, and the other one. I guess I had to recall what to make that clear. And the next one is G1. We wanted me to end with the first sentence. You want to compare with last time. Wanted me to end the first sentence after the word ordinance.
This is very clear what we're doing.
Oh, so that's all I have on 3.15. I do have something on 3.03.
Well, let's just finish with this. Okay, so next time we should have a completed 3.05, and what would help me is instead of underlining every word, you could just underline, you could just,
Just do the final.
just
Do the changes.
just show me the changes, yeah. Because this, yeah, every word's underlined,
Underline the changes from this one.
yes.
One quick question, I hope this is still pre-academic. On G1, what entity are we assuming determines that action has not been taken? Because somebody has to be the final arbiter.
Ultimately, it's gonna be the court. If they do not, if they don't take action within 45 or 30 days and they don't put it on the ballot, then somebody's gonna have to go for a mandamus to court. Unless you want to make it me, I'll be happy to do it.
I like that idea.
Yeah, great.
Okay, ready for 3.03? Remember the discussion about redistricting or reapportionment. So what I did in the second paragraph, first sentence. The candidate must be a permanent by the way, I
I'm sorry, where are
rewrote
you?
this
I'm
whole-
sorry.
Three oh
Second,
three, the first sentence.
the second paragraph.
Oh, the second
Oh,
paragraph.
the second.
Yeah, this is
We're
district.
talking about during redistricting.
So I made it so there's a permanent resident. The candidate has to be a permanent resident for at least 6 months preceding application, except that in a year in which there has been a redistricting, candidate may run in the resulting district after the reporting.
Okay, is the reapportionment the same as the redistricting? Because you said
Reapportionment, I believe,
the
is
word
a
you're
sta-
voting.
reapportionment, I believe, is a statutory term.
Yeah.
I believe so. I'm just using the word redistricting, but I believe reapportionment.
We're used to reapportionment from state
Yeah,
mentality, so.
I think that's a statutory term. I'll look. I believe so. I'm just.
Why don't we make it clear and just say adjustment of city districts or a realignment of city districts, so there's no question what we're talking about here?
You know, it's interesting because you can do a realignment of a district
Right.
prior to a census reapportionment.
I wouldn't want to open the door to somebody saying, oh, we moved where a polling place was within some precincts. Or rejoined a precinct into one, and that qualifies.
My question,
We have
I
precincts being
don't know, is there some difference between, what we're talking about is where the line moves. Is reapportionment correct term?
Yes.
Could you have a line move without reapportionment?
You've had some district changes, boundary changes prior to and without because of court action.
Okay, so
But
it's not
it's
just
still-
reapportionment, so there's something broader than reapportionment that could create the problem that we're trying to address.
It's a rarity,
I know, but that's what we did.
right?
I don't think reapportionment is the right.
I think that may be in the chart.
Realignment of a district.
I think it's realignment of the district boundaries, what we're talking about, because it's not, so someone's here and then they're there. That's what we're talking about.
I
Just,
think we accomplish what you're looking for by using that term.
Paul, do you agree with that, or
I'm not sure because I think it's somewhere in the charter itself.
that what?
It's based on the decennial census,
The term reportion.
possibly.
Excuse me, I have to go to a neighborhood meeting, but if you could do us all a favor, in addition to what you're doing now, if you could give some definition to what permanent resident means, that would be helpful.
Elimination. The whole area.
Do me a favor.
We actually have we've had those discussions of permanent residents. And
Have you had them?
Yeah.
And you've given definition to them,
that's how we came to use
Yeah,
the
there's a
term
legal
of permanent residents.
Definition for it.
so you've now added definition to your recommendations.
What I'm saying that the term permanent resident is what we looked at the case law, and I think Paul and everyone agreed that that has been defined.
Can you put it in the charter though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful, it's good for clarity,
Yeah.
for
Well,
the future.
What it was based, what I presented it was based on was the way the statute uses it for homestead.
But that's still not the state standard, the state standard. has
We
like a
use the
whole
state
list.
standard that when we went.
Does it have a whole bunch of different?
Yeah, we use the state standard when we had the
So
discussion.
we could be more defined, it's just helpful to.
It'd be helpful if, with city employees that have employment contracts,
All
the
that,
charter
all that.
requires
I
them to be
agree. 'Cause I
permanent
know the city
residents and stuff like
manager,
that.
I think we had a thing where the city manager is supposed to have some residents here. I think the city attorney also, if I'm not mistaken, also has to have, not the city attorney, just the city manager.
City
Whatever you do, just help the commission and the voters, so we have some definition. Whatever you decide, I'm just hopeful that, permanent resident.
We used the terms, we had this discussion early on,
Versus
we took the state,
domicile.
yeah.
But if you
and we
could put-
questioned whether domicile
We just-
or
What's
I
that?
know
permanent.
that you're rushed, but I remember this conversation, and I'm not sure where we ended up. I know, because I've litigated a dozen of these cases, that every single court in this state always says it's fact specific. There's not one factor that you say somebody could look at it, and I don't think we ended up. I mean, remembering properly, I don't think we ended up solving this problem. So,
Well, what we did the state description, driver's license, et cetera, different
those are, but
IDs. But
Those are
then we
additional-
also left
those are
it,
indicia of
but
residence.
what we left it to, that it would go to the court's decision and not the commission's
Then
decision.
it becomes a burden on candidate to have to take it to court. Like, for example, I'm not saying this, you said, wherever your homestead, that's your permanent residence. If that was, so I'm just saying, if that was a
The problem with homestead, and that's what we discussed, is that you're not required to own. So therefore, we avoid the word homestead, which is how we came up with the permanent residence.
So I think it's a good idea that we can define it.
yeah, if you had to line this up.
And probably if we look back in the minutes, we had it.
Knowing probably more than we should. It's impossible to define. I mean, if you define it, somebody has everything, they're missing the driver's license. Then they're not a resident.
No,
That's probably.
And if they don't, or they have to have a driver's license and voter registration,
Or what if they don't, if you're renting in Port Lauderdale?
you still have to have a caller ID.
That's the only driver,
but that's right, and if you go to something, well, you take it out.
So just, it would be helpful, like.
It's like that was arrested and removed from office in Cape Coral because she used her driver's license and used a fake address on her driver's license to establish residence. So she was arrested. But
That's. Just talking about-
that's fraudulent for someone to apply for a driver's license and voter registration using an address that they don't have access or legal access to.
I think where we ended up.
So that's what we were doing, but we have descriptions on it, and we also worked on we could go back, because it was back when February or March,
Let's
those,
go back. I don't
That's
think I think,
but the main thing was switching it away from the commission
that's.
being the governing,
I
so that
remember
the
that very
courts would
clearly.
have the governing.
And unfortunately, I don't think, we can talk about it, but I don't think you're gonna end up any place else other than that, but it's just, I mean.
I don't think the court should be the one, and I don't think the commission should be the one. Right now,
Who's
the commission has the right.
who's gonna make the decision?
It has to be the courts.
But if we can give further definition,
But somebody still is gonna look at the language and say, somebody's gotta do that, so.
Because I have
It's not the
brought
court,
question
it's
about
not-
domicile,
It's
using
not
the
the
word
court, it's not
domicile.
the commission, who's gonna look at the language, because there's always gonna be argument,
if it's in the charter,
yes.
we can have at least some clarity.
It's in,
No, but it's not,
I understand.
it's not well defined in the charter. There has to be some clarity,
well,
because it says permanent resident. What is that?
but I believe that was the word that we came up with.
Permanent residents
It's
with
not
every
from,
single city.
it's not the way it was in the charter, it's the way from our discussions that Paul brought back to
It's not
us.
defined by statute, and it's not. It's a hard problem,
We can come back and discuss that.
but I think what we agreed clearly to move this away from the commission.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Commission should.
I don't think that we did any better than just using permanent resident. Say, first, okay, that's my record.
Well, I wasn't born here. Is that a, not a permanent? I mean, I'm a permanent, just.
The
No,
court-
that has nothing to do with that.
No, that's permanent for the last 6 months before fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
That's.
What does permanent mean if you're homesteaded in Alabama?
And so, but
Can't you-
I understand if you raise those issues, but if you start with the courts have all said, is that you have to look at the totality of the circumstances. So if somebody doesn't have a driver's license here and has one in Alabama, that's just like one factor to look at. If they don't have a homestead here, that's one factor. If they don't get their electric bills, that's one
The
factor.
homestead issue,
Yeah.
and this is by the law.
Yeah.
The homestead issue is the property appraiser's office issued the opinion. It doesn't come off until the following year, so you may look and you still have homestead somewhere else.
That's why
So that's why
taking
we,
off these items.
right, that's why we went down through it and then we discussed and researched domicile
Yeah, I remember.
so
did
that
all
we
that,
could,
But we didn't,
But you didn't.
and the final determination was that.
I don't remember what, honestly, I don't remember.
But that's how we came up with it.
Just ask. Just.
Yeah, so it would be helpful if the people that are supposed to be residents by contract and by charter, we came up with the, your electric bills, your, right, it was, electric bills, driver's license, voter registration,
A lot of that is in statute.
and that was all in the state statute.
As
Unlike
evidence.
people that use, puts
Under
a
the-
fake address on a driver's license and voter
So I
registration,
think
that
that
they
was
don't have
under the
access to property.
definition of permanent resident.
And I think that's how we came
So
up
you
with
think it
permanent
was-
resident versus domicile.
I think.
Because I
going
brought
back,
the word
we had the
domicile,
state statute up.
Yeah, I remember.
That's how we.
because I had recommended
But
we look
also
at
in
the
the
word
case of
domicile.
an employee, which is different than, the commission is the employer. So if the commission decides that a person is supposed to be a permanent resident, does not have a residence, they can get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's different.
Or they
than
can waive that.
Or they can waive it.
Well, They
That's
can waive it
different.
if they chose,
That's
but they
different
have to
than
take action to waive
That's
it.
different than a candidate where the commission doesn't have the ability.
Right.
That's why this hard.
But that time I brought the word to look at domicile,
Yeah.
and you guys came back with the decision, let's use permanent resident.
No, I
It's based-
think permanent resident is correct.
Based on the state statute.
Based upon, there's a million places where permanent residents define them. But I don't think we came up with any detail under permanent residence because it's impossible. That's what I think we ended up.
Right, but I think we took as much information as we had from the state definition. There was case
That's
law,
what I had.
we had,
Paul,
yeah, we-
where did we end up on this?
We landed on permanent residence.
Period. No information from the state law, just permanent resident.
That the
yeah, the
law,
statute
It's
one
gonna be a
ninety-six
court.
point oh one five is.
or we could.
That's where we ended up.
Well, if you could, otherwise,
Well,
I may end up bringing it
it's
up.
right here in the state statute and it's defined.
Permanent resident.
check out this, right? 196.015.
Yeah, I know that statute, it just shows, indices of residents. Childhood services. Yeah. But you have a point, employees versus candidates should be.
Well, but still-
Different tests.
But it's still in the charter, so how it's defined.
Okay, let's look back
So
and
let's
see
go.
how we,
Yeah,
where we
I'm sorry.
started.
Yeah.
I thank everybody.
Let's see, we ended up, I know that we made some progress, but I don't know that we did anything further than just saying, all right.
I hate to say it to you, but it's really your choice of words to use for the process.
Yeah.
Right.
I
That
think
was
it's
not-
exactly the correct word.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What I'm suggesting is that trying to do anything other than using those terms is, it's.
I agree. No, I totally agree. And that was the discussion we had months and months and months ago.
Yeah.
Because of that, we can't count the homestead because of the way the homestead laws, we have all those opinions that it doesn't come off until the following year, so it's misleading. So what else do we look to?
So what it was, I don't understand.
But what about citing as cited in the statute? You could be an issue, that
Without, I mean, that statute goes into issue without the one requiring ownership.
You know,
They're an issue, which means that who's looking for somebody for a black and white test, and it's not, doesn't exist.
no, you're right. But you're just looking for some definition.
Well,
And if we cite the statute,
actually, before Alan Boulay got fired, it's in the records where all that case law was provided to Alan for failure to promote what the real statute required and to let a challenge be listed on the books, even though the challenge had no legal standing
So,
to be out there.
I mean,
And that's when we said it needs to go back to clarity and to taking on the hands of the commission and putting to the hands of
I think
the.
we've done that, that's very,
And we did it.
I think the most you could do is you could say, permanent residence, and then you could say, for purposes of determining whether someone's a permanent resident, the following factors shall be given, may be considered in addition to others. But honestly, it's doing that.
And then by whom? Instead of by whom.
Very clear. But it's good. Most people say, these are the factors, you must have it.
Right.
Now, must have it. Most people do that. It's going to be subject to utility. Once you do that, somebody could not have a utility bill because they live with their mother.
You can't get but right, and you can't get the voter registration, you can't get this and that without certain documents and forms. So I just think we're rehashing something that we want to.
let's just keep
Don't regret it, just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, where we were is on the word reapportionment, but it was saying exactly correct.
Might I suggest to split into difference and just say reapportionment or like change to boundaries?
I think if it's anything else, it's done by court order.
Right.
It's not on a whim.
The thing that I don't know the answer to is that the only way these boundaries get changed, either reapportionment or court order. Is that
Court order.
it?
Potentially, if the city were to annex new property.
The boundary can change.
No, because they wouldn't be doing it until the next election cycle. Well, yeah, then be the next election cycle. Do you remember when you were working for Jeff when or maybe you weren't, this was back around early 2000s when we annexed in Twin Lakes and Rock Island.
Yeah, it was part of the.
But we didn't change. But we didn't change the district boundaries,
Not until the following.
no, until the census, right?
What happened, when Florida by the Sea next that section? Just story. Remember there got the couple of buildings and what happened there? District boundary.
Well, a lot of the annexations that came in were industrial.
Yeah, but this was residential, Florida by the Sea, well, there's a big building there, but somebody was involved in politics, was a city attorney or something who's doing one of these tall buildings that want to get annexed into where the city.
I think Dan Abbott was the city attorney back.
And I'm not talking about city attorney, somebody, a
Like, about
prominent
the-
lawyer or somebody who's living here, they were talking about this. But I don't know what happened when they annexed, when they went north to annex part of this.
I just know when we brought in Rock Island and, Twin Lakes, and we did not change the boundaries.
How did they- So how did they get represented by?
They got incorporated into that adjacent district.
So the boundary did change.
Well, the boundary
Expanded.
didn't change, it just added some population to that particular
Okay,
district.
the geographic area of that district. actually.
So just.
Right.
Well,
as a-
you're saying the geographic, and I'm talking about the district
I'm
boundaries.
saying the geographic boundaries
Boundaries.
of the district changed.
Right,
We expanded to Rock Island. So the boundary actually changed,
you're talking about the legal boundaries.
right? The legal boundaries of the district changed, even though it was not a reapportionment. Because you said like.
Right.
That's all.
And not to belabor the point too much, but if somebody then lived in Rock Island or Twin Lake for 6
And they went from
months.
the county into the city.
Right. But could they run if they've only been living in the city of Lauderdale since annexation? Versus they've been in this home that they are a permanent resident of.
There's another chemical station.
I think that saying reapportionment or like change to district boundary.
The word I'm concerned about is like, because an apportion is not like, annexation is not a like.
Yeah, well,
So in section 7. It says. After the receipt of published information about each setting of census, city commission shall, it uses the word reestablish the boundaries of the 4 commission districts so that the district shall be approximately equal in population as is practicable. Those reestablishing the boundaries of the districts. So.
You wanted a term. Reestablishment of the boundaries.
I
don't know where I got-
think reestablishment of boundaries covers reapportionment, it covers annexation. Thank you. Reestablishment. Result of such storage.
Reestablishment.
Yeah, so you have to change a couple of phrases. Anything else in this section?
Not as a
So
result.
when you make the changes again, just list the changes from your.
Okay. So to answer your question, anything else, possibly cause. This is a result of your last month's discussion, but I believe there's another version of this based on a previous discussion. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because I ended up rewriting the entire 3.03 from scratch. So this is different from, it's not, it's different from the way it was in the charter. And I present that.
Well, I read it and I like what you've written, so I'm not sure we want to go back.
So I can tell you what I changed.
I think it was good.
I can tell you what I changed for the December meeting, which we didn't really get to except for this one issue. So it's a rewrite, and that's why, it's a rewrite. For mayor, it's continuous permanent resident of the city for at least 6 months before qualification. I think that was a change. Not serving in any capacity in the city government at the time of filing a candidate oath. That I believe was a change. It was at your request at our numbers. Reside, still on mayor, reside continuously as a permanent resident of the city during the term of office.
So what happens if somebody in Rock Island wants to run for mayor 2 months after Rock Island is annexed, they can't run. Because they haven't lived in the city for 6 months.
See, that's why we never touched in the past the issue of 6 months before the election versus call.
Doesn't matter, you could still come up with a scenario that, where they, you know, in terms of the annexation.
Well, you could put the same qualification language that we do here.
The other
I
one,
mean,
Just
it's so-
readjustment of the
it's so
boundaries.
obscure that it's not worth addressing, that somebody in a newly annexed portion of the city would run for the mayor. Is that so obscure that it shouldn't, that it's not worth it?
the only
Right.
area,
It sounds like it because you know, run for mayor, that's a highly visible political office. How do you,
I can come up with a scenario.
no, I can come up with,
Let's say, somebody who's run for countywide office, Dan Rich. Somebody who everybody knows in the county, all of a sudden, her area gets annexed into another district and she can run. She can run for mayor,
you're right, okay, so why don't we then put in that,
but I'm going to raising things that are just like.
and put in that reestablishment wording that, you know,
Is there anything left to annex? Not much left.
yeah, Northern Park problem. I would think it's Broadview Park.
Forget it.
I think it's a menace, but if you want
I
to.
don't feel strong about it.
See, from my standpoint, most of the stuff we're discussing, so much that we've discussed, it's only because of unfortunate incidents that happened a year ago. Things that we never had to discuss and address. We used to each person on this board would take a section and study it and come back and work through it, through the whole process. But we've been hit with so many different things, unfortunately, through 2022, that it's overwhelming. And David has the email from me back in April of 2022, asking for the charter board to be convened immediately because of the redistricting, because of the resignation, and it was ignored. City manager, city attorney, and the mayor's office basically said, you're not having a meeting. So everything that we could have been addressing as things were breaking down were ignored. So here we're,
It could be so much philosophical and without getting it all. I think we've learned the last 5 years that precedent really doesn't mean what it used to mean. But the fact that we've always done it this way,
right,
this is always acted this way, it doesn't, it doesn't mean.
and we're overwhelmed.
That's why we're ending up writing this.
Yeah,
But I'm
the
talking
courts
to
aren't following stare decisis anymore.
The courts are not, I mean, the federal government, all of it is all, it's like a, so that's why we have to write this.
And which was one of the theories that we started saying about wherever we can cut up here and just take adoption. The state, so every time things change, we don't have to try to cure something. If it's already there at the top, it's easier to
All right, Paul, what do you got?
address.
Okay, I'm commissioner, the second paragraph.
Yes.
So this is from your previous discussion, okay? Continuous permanent resident of the city for at least 6 months before publication. Not serving, pretty much the same, not serving in any capacity in city government at the time of filing candidate oath. Shall resign continuously as a permanent resident of the district to which such commissioner is elected during the term of office.
We're using the term permanent resident, which is correct.
Okay.
Just gonna give us a revision.
Would belt and suspenders be permanent resident and domicile?
No, don't.
I mean, the-
Well, we had, I mean, that's what we discussed months and months ago. And chose permanent residents.
And I throw in one piece, just because in 3.03 it references 7.14, which discusses the candidate oath. We, in the charter, under 7.14, we have a candidate oath for the city. However, for qualifying, everyone's required to do the state prescribed candidate oath form that are very much similar. And everyone always asks, why do we have to do both? Which,
So what do you
everyone
do?
does.
What do you suggest, David?
What I'm suggesting is going with the state prescribed one, because that's the one we have to submit to the Broward SOE. And that other one's sort of a backup, or just another one that's in the file, basically, the qualification.
I found my old notes back with that, she was Chanda.
Right. So channeling my inner Chanda right now. No, just a-
No, remember the
Making a
situation, the notary and not notarizing.
3.03 to
It's
change
just-
It became, right, it was a
This
burden that
to
was
the-
unnecessary.
the state candidate oath, whatever the appropriate term is.
Second.
So. This is about the time of, it's measuring time, is it at the same time, David?
Yeah,
So
at the time of qualification, part of our qualification packet right now has the Fort Lauderdale oath and then the state prescribed oath. And the SOE doesn't want the city one, we only provide them with the other one, so I always just question, do we really need two? Or do we go with the one from the,
I have a question, does the city oath require the candidate to follow or the city laws, protect and defend like, the city, versus the state?
But you still have that at the end of the day in your final oath of office.
and it's in that charter 7.14 about following the rules. It's just whether is it necessary to have two candidate oaths.
The only office that I have to have two oaths filed in is judicial races. I have to do a judicial oath besides a regular oath. Just filed,
So this references 7.14 in terms of timing. It
no
says,
other city, county, or legislature requires it.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any city that I would have to do more research.
At the time of filing the candidate oath, in accordance with 7.14, so is the other oath filed exactly at the same time, so we're not
Yes.
adjusting the time.
It's gotta be within 10 days of your treasury
Okay.
designation.
All right, so by changing the oath, we're not changing the timing.
Yes, well, that's the statement of candidate.
Okay.
I was talking we have the candidate oath, that's also part of the qualified factor, having the statement of candidate, but the candidate oath, they're very similar to each other. What I can do, I can print for the next meeting, the newly updated nonpartisan candidate oath from the state, just for you to both to look at the city one and that one to see if you feel that it's necessary to
But
have
Chris
both.
raises an important point, which is that actually, does the oath when they're sworn in require them to follow the laws of the city? I assume it does.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, right? That's
I'm looking at it right now, 7.14.
There was a new oath that the state issued this past, I think, election cycle for electeds to sign once they're elected.
Right.
Which encumbers everything that we're talking about as well. Remember, I went and got the correct oath because most cities didn't have it to provide.
Well, we work with the attorney's office to create that oath of office once they're sworn in.
It's actually two oaths.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a,
But
yeah,
the cities
It's a
is
dual oath.
different because it says they're swearing that they're qualified elector of the city. And it's also qualified under the Constitution, laws of Florida, and the city charter.
is that the one that they take when they're sworn into office?
This is 7.14.
Yeah.
That's the candidate.
yeah, that's the candidate oath at the time of qualifying.
I have the oath.
Is that when they're sworn in?
This is
Because
the,
that's,
But shouldn't they swear that they're qualified to be an elector of the charter when they're becoming?
you're right.
this is the one that's. These,
No, I'm saying to be qualified to run, you should
It's the only
affirm
city in the
that
entire
I
county.
am, in fact, qualified under the city charter.
Right.
And that's,
Or
so that would be different than the plain vanilla state.
does the state one, David, do you know, does it include being qualified to hold office?
Qualified to be.
I'm a qualified elector under the Constitution and the laws of
Qualified
Florida to hold office
elector.
to which to be nominated or elected, have qualified for no other public office in the state, the term of which office or any other part thereof runs concurrent with the office I seek. I have resigned from any office pursuant to section 012 Florida statutes, and I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution.
So it doesn't say that I'm certified, I'm qualified to run for office under the city, under the city charter.
Right.
So I think, yeah, unfortunately, that's part of the good point. Unfortunately, that's important. I think that we're sort of-
Which was part of our discussion last year, how can you be challenging us now after the fact?
So
That was the
leave it.
redundancy exactly.
What's next?
So wait, so not changing that to the state. Next would be to go back to the previous agenda.
What happened to 303? 313.
Right. So it's on the previous agenda.
Oh,
Oh, is it on this? It's on this one also? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
2.26 meetings,
We're, yeah. We have it.
that was in the agenda.
Meetings.
Okay, 2.26, I believe you.
Why did you give us 2.6?
That,
So we're not, definitely 1.3. It's just the code charter stuff.
I don't know how this agenda happens, but the 2.2-26 is the code section ordinance on which I based 3.13.
All right.
That's where it came
But
from.
we don't have 3.13 in this example.
It was
Correct.
on our amended.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's wait. We
That
have,
was under old business.
yeah, but we don't have to document.
You have it in the last month's agenda.
I don't know, or 5 carried. Oh.
Yes.
Do that, look at it, where are they?
It's the black and white copy,
This one?
That's that. Well,
So it's here. Everybody, you copy, I end up with a stack.
I'm good, I'll just leave it. I don't really want it.
Okay, so what I had for last meeting.
The
last one was-
to talk about and
You asked-
it's in the passage.
That just is a you asked to define regular meeting in charter, so I took a stab at revising section 3.13. It mirrors what already exists as an ordinance, that's the 2-26. You had previously suggested that the city commission prescribe its own, second issue. You had previously suggested that the city commission prescribe its own rules and identify parliamentarian, and I provided that that would be accomplished by ordinance. So I took a stand at defining regular.
We're looking at this one, I'm looking at, right, this one. Yeah, I would take out the word all. I would just say regular meetings of the city commission shall be held. Maybe we need all, we need all. I'm not precluding them from having other regular meetings, I just want to make sure that they have meetings regularly. That's
Well,
fair,
all this,
I mean, this will,
it's a regular meeting, it's a regular.
but it says that, but it
Again, compared to
it
the,
says, it implies that you can't have another type of, another regular meeting. In other words, you can have a regular meeting on Friday afternoon. In
So-
addition to,
The subject matter that brought this forward for us to have this discussion is based on the whole issue.
Yeah, I know. But you know what I'm saying? It said all precludes any other regular meeting.
Well, regular meeting is a regular meeting, whether it's, how do you have a different regular meeting?
Okay.
I'm not,
I understand.
yeah,
Regular meetings, so we want all or not?
I'll keep it in, I mean, it's redundant.
Okay, so leave it
Keep,
on all
keep
or-
in mind that to the extent you deviate from this language, you'll also have to recommend the city commission change the ordinance.
Should just be a footnote. Our report. So, first use one, so the 5 Tuesdays, shall be- so the shall be also the assets to use any efficiency persons or. They do that their practices,
That's free meetings.
do they have 3 meetings in a month?
Never.
So why are we saying this? This is
That's
required
not
as
true.
possible.
That's not true, because they, sometimes in September, we do have 3 meetings with the budget.
That's the budget,
That's the budget.
budget hearing.
But those are not regular.
Scheduled
That's not-
meetings.
Those are gotta be after 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
So do we need this section where it says about 5 minutes? Should
I don't see where we need
they have 2 regular meetings a month?
2 regular meetings a month.
So let's get rid of that. part. Doesn't include them from having a special meeting, if they want to have a special meeting, just, what we're focused on is to make sure they have their meetings, so that swearing people and deal with stuff. Right, if they want to have more meetings, that's great, but I thought the problem was they were not, they're playing around.
They played
Well, it
around with
wasn't a
it.
real meeting, and it wasn't.
Right, they put it on a conference agenda and said that's the regular meeting.
The meeting they show.
To us, a regular meeting is voting.
They're on succeeding one, right?
Because 309 says for newly elected officials, says the time scheduled for the first regular meeting, so to speak, consistent.
We want them to be able to reschedule coming to meeting dates, the dates are released out to the sections by this resolution. Published, in which we want them to be able to do that, yeah.
I can see,
Yeah, for the holidays, they reschedule all the time.
There's one,
That's why we're having our meeting next week as opposed to this week.
there's one slight ambiguity in this language, but the clerk's office and I have resolved, pretty much resolved it. And that is what is meant by before the date's so fixed. We do the publication before the date that's being changed to be safe and conservative, so we've resolved that ambiguity that I mentioned.
So this means that they might, again, we're dealing with what happened. This means that they could decide not to have any meetings in December at all. Or January or February. or March.
Proper notice. Yeah.
I don't think that's good.
The county commission does not have any meetings in July and for most months.
That was take, yeah. Wait till school resumes, used to be the rule.
Now,
well, that gets back, follow up on your thought, which we did discuss is, once you've been certified by the supervisor of elections, you can take the oath of office to be sworn in. So we don't need a meeting.
Right.
That'd be the solution to.
I mean, I don't know. Again, we're dealing in a world where practice means nothing.
Well,
You know, what we used to do and all that is it's like the
But
whole
we-
world has changed.
but we had, which Nate brought to the attention, the special act, once we switched to November elections, that governs, that state law that governs us with the elections, which included when you had to be given the oath of office in that special act, which the city ignored in the last, they didn't adopt the special act. And that's why so we've cured that now by,
So the only concern that the had not having these meetings deals with, we've dealt with the problem with the petition. Whether they have a meeting, don't have a meeting, on holiday, if they don't do it within 30 or 45 days, it goes on the ballot. Okay, so we've dealt with that. So the next issue is swearing in. of people.
and that's covered in the special act.
And we've dealt with that.
But we haven't discussed it yet.
No, that's 309, that's.
Yeah, but
But
that's
really,
where
that's,
we're gonna deal with it that way. So they want to have a meeting, we care.
But what does the special act?
the special act said within so many days of the, I think it was 14 days,
I can pull it
within
out,
the
but-
certification of the
So now
election.
we're dealing with swearing in again. We're talking about absent the swearing in issue, do we care whether we have meetings?
No.
We don't care, right? We don't. Absent the petition issue, which we dealt with, the swearing in issue, which we're going to deal with. We don't really care if they don't want to meet, it's okay with us.
It's okay with us, but as a charter.
It was a charter matter.
Yeah.
So then let's just deal with this language which says, provided however, that any meeting made by resolution, rescheduled commission meeting dates, the dates other than is established in this section, provided that the resolution so adopted is published in the official newspaper of the city. Do we still have an official newspaper of the city, David?
Sun Sentinel.
Okay. Official newspaper of the city, once at least 3 days before the date so fixed. City commission may by motion eliminate meetings for 1 month each year to provide for vacation. And special meeting may be held elsewhere in the city under authority of the resolution previously adopted. This implies the regular meetings are going to, I don't know what elsewhere it means. We haven't identified what any meetings are going to. Is this something where? But I don't know where, other elsewhere from what.
Well, now elsewhere is.
It really isn't elsewhere now.
Yes. It's all else.
It's all over. We're elsewhere right
I don't
now.
know.
so you can check it now.
I think what we're trying to say is special meetings can be held. I don't think it's saying that resolution is free. I think the city commission have the ability, in addition to the regular meetings, the city commission shall have grants. Right, that's it. That's it.
I would recommend that we just, if we had one, it's working on the charter from Hollywood. We basically had at least, and like,
That's why I asked.
I don't. This is ordinance language. This should not be in the charter, just as a matter of
Which one, which part?
the entire section. I think that it's simplified to be. I understand all of the different needles we are trying to thread. I just feel like we're putting something that is vital, so we change state level, the public notice, in the newspaper, it's something. Legislature, and yeah, if they change that, then we still have this in the charter and have the charter. And
And then they finished this past session. But yeah, I believe it did in the last session.
Well, for 3 days, okay, so the sunshine required. Read the notice, let me the time, place, agent. So that's already covered.
Right. And you do it for that when you know it's supposed to be for you.
But don't we need something in the charter that? I wish we had ordinance. That's the only. Should be doing. They should have really scheduled meetings.
You could just say. The commission shall meet at least twice per month. Twice. Regular meetings shall be held twice per month. Days scheduled by resolution. well, something very similar.
Right, but you also have to have the 1 month of the year for vacations.
Yeah. That would be very, that would be simple.
Yeah, that's currently addressed. About vacation time.
So it used to just be a solid month, like a month, July, but several years back, they decided to do half of July and half of it to kind of for when kids are out of school. Because it never really falls just for a single
Right.
month. So they decided to do the month of 2 weeks, like 2 weeks in August. So
The
you,
month was calculated by when the first meeting in July would have been, because it's.
We usually have the first meeting
yeah,
of July and.
we skip, we.
Skip the first one in August and then pick up the.
Correct, yeah, we have first meeting in July, second meeting in August, and the break is in between.
So we count the month from when the second meeting of July would have been, because it's not really fair to.
It's, I would be 31 days.
Right.
There was, you know.
But I agree, but if you have a vision that says,
They're gonna meet at least twice a month, except for,
yeah, or that's what I'm saying, if you're gonna require them to meet twice a month, will that
what if they have
then
this?
collide into?
I think that the best way to split the baby on this one is to say,
Don't say so, we're not splitting any babies.
oh,
We have no babies or split a hair or we're not splitting.
sorry.
No splitting babies, that is not what we're doing.
Reading too much King Solomon. But to say they shall meet the first and third Tuesday for the month, except for 1 month, 22 meetings a year.
Right, that's not what- But it means that for some reason they can't. Three meetings, 4 meetings. Yeah.
Again, I'm putting this as impediments.
You're chuckling a bit.
I was thinking you were gonna force majeure clause.
They have to have it each month.
Okay.
22.
What,
I'm saying
actually,
at least 11, because
Wait,
I'm
wait,
worried
wait,
about
Richard.
them canceling and.
Richard, I'm going back to history at the county.
Yeah.
Okay, because the county used to be 4 meetings a month. And you used to have workshops on Thursdays. And then the salary jumped up.
Yeah.
Just like here, all of a sudden, after the 2018 election, starting in 2020, they bumped the salaries almost triple.
Mhm.
So to say that they should only meet 11 meetings a year, go to the public and say, 11 times they're getting paid $80,000-$90,000 a year.
Okay. But it's a good point.
Didn't they have done that in past
So what do you think we should do?
things? Well, I still think that you do, if we can do the minimum of 2 meetings a month. Put in, the entitlement, like, don't we have something like sick pay and stuff like that, those little different include exclusions or, a vacation time or,
Not for commission.
Not for commission.
What-
They don't accrue
Okay.
kind of.
We're
But it's-
reinventing the wheel here.
yeah, you are,
Could you bring us back for next time, some samples from other cities and cities as to how they do this? This has been dealt with cleanly.
Of course they
Yeah,
have.
Paul,
And
Paul, I was
this
just,
is one I think of the most, because had the county changed during, I think it was Beam Fur, when he was mayor, from 4 meetings to to 2 meetings.
But yeah, let's just take a look at
So
it.
let's,
This is a simple issue. We're reading.
right, let's just see how it goes.
I believe I've seen it, and it might have been another city, but could say just eliminate 2 meetings each year to provide for vacation. So if they ever wanted to switch back for a single month instead of doing it in between 2 months. They could do a whole month off, or they can do where they're a half a month and then a half a month there.
Not a bad idea. I'll bring us back some examples.
I'll see if I can find it.
What's next?
It's almost.
Whether the meeting should be, is that correct? The city commission, the agenda. It should be established by the city manager. Is that? I'd like.
I don't from the word. I believe it's from the word.
I know. My question is.
And you have to go back and look at his, under city manager's duties.
My question is, so it's established by the city manager, yeah, how does that work? Is there a whole, like if a commissioner wants to put an item on the agenda, they say, oh, Mr. Manager, would you please put this on the air? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. And wait for the manager says, no. I want to do that.
When you bring up its agenda, you know,
When you regulated it. So the topic, the call up for a project, wasn't on the agenda, but we said we want it on the agenda. And so the city manager put it on the agenda. And those occasions when he can't fit it on the agenda, so he calls.
Let's say it's an item terminating the city manager. What happens?
He has to put it on the
No,
agenda.
it
If
doesn't
the
say that.
commissioner's asking for it,
I
'cause-
know that, that's the practice.
but what the commissioner will do, will bring it up and they'll do a walk on. Because if it's not on the agenda,
So-
they'll bring it up.
in this city, which I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I never experienced it prior to 2018. This commission started a practice with a lot of walk-on items. And David, do you remember years of that type of activity?
But people just walk on and remember it's like,
Yeah.
Well, normally walk-ons are known
Consensus
before the
and-
meeting and then they're walked on, and then they're announced before the meeting and then the agenda is approved as amended.
I'm not so sure.
I don't think there are that many, and secondly, sometimes they're the result of a conference discussion.
Right,
see, some cities have a rule that says things have to be on the agenda a certain amount of days in advance. And if they're, and that if something's not provided, backup material is not provided to city commissioners, certain number of days, then anybody else can sort of.
I've seen
can
that.
Pick it off the agenda. It's called the 3-day rule in Dade County. Basically, just any commissioner, some items on an agenda, somebody tries to bring it on, and one person can pick it up.
I like that.
They don't get proper notice of it.
it's fascinating because I've seen this commission adjourn a meeting and then all of a sudden bring a topic back. And do a fiber.
That's. So.
So that's terrible. Sorry.
Well, and also more times than not, the commission has addressed this, at least my commissioner, is that when that agenda is posted for the public, the backup is not added to it. And then it doesn't get added until the day of the meeting, and that's,
It's a
there's
terrible-
no public
terrible
notice,
practice.
no.
Terrible practice.
And that's happened several
In fact,
times.
at the county, when they changed from 4 meetings a month to 2 meetings a month, the switch off was when Bertha had to put, started Bertha, the agenda's out 2 weeks early.
Yep.
To compensate.
Yeah.
So you had 2 weeks notice on agenda, which was
Yeah,
a very
I'd say
fair
it's
practice.
Better government. The
Yeah.
elected officials have the opportunity to look at something carefully.
Yeah.
The contracts don't get,
Correct.
done quickly within.
Well, we just had all these major contracts just given away.
Question I was asking was,
And
is
just
there,
done.
is the right thing is, should the manager prepare the agenda? That's what we said, right?
Well, we asked the question when Greg was still asked. I asked the question of the practice. And he said that if a commissioner asked him to have something on the conference agenda, then he puts on the conference agenda.
What about
I
the
remember
regular
Chris
agenda?
Lagerblum used to call me and said, do you have anything to put on?
What about the regular agenda?
Regular agenda is also his.
Mr. Manager, I'd like to put a resolution on the agenda firing you. Oh, I don't really
And we've done that. Commissioner Storman did that.
I don't know, how does it get on the agenda?
He requested him to put it on the
But
agenda.
if he doesn't want to do it.
Here's the problem that we found that was going on was, and we had to educate, it's 5 commissioners and city manager form of government, correct? It's not a city attorney form of government, it's not a mayor form of
I'm
government.
in favor of city attorney.
I know we do. We work really well on that. So they were holding things up and putting out agendas once Alan Boulay signed off and approved them, which wasn't very good. So we've gotten now into this habit of the commission trying to work it through, and it seems that at the conference agenda is where things will come up in discussions.
The conference agenda is something that they made up. Just like historically, they've had a conference agenda, there's not gonna be any requirement in the charter that they have a conference agenda.
Prior to, the conference agenda was for the purpose to actually be more like a
I
workshop. So
understand.
anything that's
I
controversial,
understand, but
so that you had a couple weeks to digest the information before it would come up for a vote.
I think that's,
Unlike right now, where it's putting,
And it gives the afternoon agenda, the conference agenda also gives direction for staff. So it gives staff an opportunity to discuss projects or whatever the issue is for the commission and request their direction as a body and not as individuals. So that's also in the conference agenda.
okay, back to my question. Is it appropriate for the manager to have be the sole person to do the agenda? Or do commissioners should have the ability to put stuff on the agenda? Mayor has the ability to put something on the agenda, or a majority of the commissioners that, whatever, I don't know.
well,
Just asking
Well, I would
you,
think that any commissioner or the mayor should be able to put something on the agenda.
they have the right to request anything.
Well,
Not a
not just a
request.
request, but to put on.
see, I think.
I
that
like the
com-
county system.
Which is,
If you were in the charter review when they did it,
it's a long.
where you, well, it's true, it really was, it's a couple of decades. But at that time, then you go through the agenda, and then the administrator meets with the mayor, who then reviews the agenda. And at that time, once it's signed off, then that agenda comes forward.
See, I think that commissioners should have the ability.
Oh, and commissioners have the right to add an item to the agenda, but the deadline date, was it Thursday?
Yeah, basically, if we provided it's on a supplemental item, we really kind of ask for anything to come in within like the week before.
But this
Yeah,
is why,
there's a
this is why
specific
you
deadline
need that
date.
3-day rule or 5-day
Right.
rule, so stuff doesn't get on the agenda.
So things aren't surprised Monday night.
Yeah.
But they really are. There's agenda items that as the commission office, we don't know they're on the agenda until it's released to the public. And so that causes a little bit of trouble for our office because it could be a very controversial item. Or in the case of the EMR with a 1,000-page document that the commissioner had to review in 4 days. And so as the Commissioner Sturman, I would support that to have that conference before the agenda is released because there might be issues that the commissioner has to offer or has to add to it that may affect the release of the agenda.
Okay, my suggestion, 7:30, which is sort of my.
I know,
that
that's
might
right. I
be
know,
going,
that's
it's
why I
okay, but I get
watch.
burnt out by stuff.
I brought you cookies, give you some.
I got you. I suggest we put this on the next.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul. Okay, so Paul, what are we doing? What, we're gonna follow up, we're doing for next time, you're gonna give us the redrafts of these provisions with just the highlighted stuff we added today.
Yeah, I would like to keep it simple so that we have one simple document of saying, okay, here's the charter today based on all of our discussions with these
At
months.
the end, we'll do a
Say-
report. And it'll show-
And that's the only time that it's worthwhile to sit with the commission and go through it all.
I'm gonna stay away from that. I mean, whatever it is, if there's no meeting, I thought there was a meeting, so I thought it'd be helpful to have a report for me, but if there's no meeting, I'm done with it. Okay, so Paul, if you could do follow-ups, the strike throughs and the ads that we just did tonight. If you could give us some examples of charter provisions dealing with meetings, with scheduling of meetings. And maybe if you could find some charter provisions dealing with how things get on the agenda and stuff like that. And then, what else, where else do we go to? What's next, Paul?
One second. We need to do,
All these other 313, 303, 310, they're all-
so
And
three point oh nine was
the
the
add-ons.
one that we spoke with Nathaniel about.
Newly elected officials.
Okay.
As opposed to organization meetings. Based on your discussion, I inserted one small thing about permanent residents for the city manager.
Correct. And then, let you and I look at the agenda before it goes out. I think this was. Maybe not paying attention to that, but make sure. it has everything.
Now, I don't know if we want to skip, but over the summer. I worked on Article 3, which is
I'm done
probably.
with this, John, but we're gonna go to the
You're looking
agenda.
at through that.
Otherwise, we're never gonna get there.
And we had Anthony provide us all the placards.
No, no skipping and no babies.
And the other issue that we needed to address at some point when we started was January last year, was where we were going when in 2018, when we had the last charter meeting, was to look at what we do about staggered terms. We have the
Because I assume very well we go through. We're gonna do it.
And that is about the publication of not only the agenda, but the backup material. And I don't know where that fits into the charter, but I think it should be part of the charter. Because I know from personal experience, there have been times where the backup material has not been published until.
Who
the day of the
prepared,
meeting.
I know the manager prepares these, but who actually, is there an agenda coordinator? Who is that?
Yes,
So you want to answer it?
it's up to you.
You're the city.
Who does it? I mean, who compiles the agenda?
So Katarina in the city manager's office is the agenda coordinator. And she helps the items through the process of getting approved, by all the layers depending on the item.
Okay, well, maybe she could come talk to us. I'd love to be very interested in the agenda, so we do something that's practical and it works.
No one.
Where constraints are. Do it properly. We do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll ask some, either Katarina or someone else from the manager's office. I'll put that out there. So just so you're gonna work with Jania, but I did take a couple notes that there's gonna be the city attorney office follow-ups from the items discussed
Oh,
today.
there's also the research that you're gonna do on this contract.
Okay. And then gonna revisit 3.09, 4.05 also.
Yes.
Staggered terms, and then
Staggered terms is gonna come up later, or is it part of this? Are we there yet? Staggered
No.
terms? We're not there yet. right?
okay.
We are.
Well, I mean, it's in the election section, so. I mean,
What section is the staggered terms? Well, you know what, we'll deal with it when it's part of this, that's fine, if not, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
3.02, creation, composition, and term of commission.
Okay,
There's a lot in Article 3.
all right,
So
so
I don't know if you wanted to cherry, if you wanted,
I don't want to cherry pick, what I want to do is I want to.
we haven't really gone.
We should go one by one by one, but I want to finish with these articles.
So for example,
Okay, so Paul, the next time, what I like to try to do, I like to finish, focus on Article 3. So go through and give us what we need to deal with Article 3. We have a lot of other stuff.
there's a lot in Article 3.
All right, let's go through it.
It's,
Let's do it.
3.01 goes through 320 to 22 seconds.
the target.
But what do I put together? And
I think what you should do.
I don't have,
We
it
had,
is you should put-
on this, on the ones that we have discussed. Do I want to?
we had at one time, I'm sure I have it. We looked at City of Hollywood. Was the key one that we studied on the stacking. person. Yeah, we had that whole, I'll go back and look, but we had a couple of cities of how they switched into stacking terms.
I think that we should take it 2 steps. I think you should put Article 3 on the agenda, so both of these, and if we see a section that we feel like we want to dig into, we'll either dig into it then, or just say we need more information on it, or maybe some sections is wrong. But let's just try to get through Article 3, and then if there's, we'll decide what we want to spend more time on.
You did have that one thing about the dates. Like this last year, we had a meeting on July, and then the next meeting was August 22nd. So like this year coming up, it's gonna be 7/2 and August 20. But I know there's, the city manager probably can explain it. I know there's some kind of rule of like how much time in between, you have to have at least one meeting, but
Just get this from us.
is that, no, I'm just saying the city manager has.
No, but are you saying that we have
No,
to
no,
have a
no,
certain
no,
meeting or the
no.
No, I'm just trying to say how they explain how they do that during the summer, where they only have really one meeting that really falls in July and one meeting that really falls in August. There is a process to it.
So I mean, I touched on it before. So the 1 month is calculated from the second meeting in July when they would have had a meeting.
Right.
So that the next meeting can be the third
The
Third
third
Tuesday
Tuesday
in
of the fall.
August.
Right.
Right, because it wouldn't be fair, it's not fair to count the 2 weeks from the first meeting in July until the second
Yeah,
meeting in
there's
July,
kind of a
because
formula.
they're not meeting anyway. So that's how the month is calculated, from the second meeting in July.
Right.
30 days from then, or a month from then, and then there's another meeting.
And that's how it worked out for the 5th and the 22nd
Right.
last year.
And every year is
And then
different.
next year,
That's right.
this year coming up is gonna be July 2nd and then August 20.
If that's what they want to do, because it's up to them which
Well, yeah,
which month
vote-
they take on.
They
Yeah.
vote on the calendar.
Yeah, the calendar's already kind of been voted on. They've already taken. Couple months before the beginning of the year, we put a calendar together based on the, the first and third Tuesdays. And since the last few years, we've been doing second meeting in July off, first meeting in August off. We put it like that and they agree to it. And if there's any meetings that they want to switch, like a couple were switched this year, as in this month. And then I can't remember the other one, but then we just put it, they do a resolution that Paul and I work on and then we publish it, but.
Yeah, so it's not fair to count the time
Can we
after.
stop here for a second? Our next agenda, give us some examples of what other commissions do and how they do with vacations. That's not do this now. It's all right.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
All in favor?
Not the supervisor's office.
See you guys next month.
Never.
Oh, my pleasure. Let's go.